here. So states of matter, we've already kind of talked about this a little bit, but just to give you some more information. Solid, liquid, gas. Liquids and solids have a lot in common. The atoms are pretty tightly packed, okay? That means they're very dense. Interestingly though, water is it's not the only, but it is one of the only substances in which the liquid is more dense than the solid. So liquid water is 1.0 gram per milliliter. Ice is about 0.9 grams per milliliter. And hear that? I got ice cubes in there. They're floating on top. Ice water. I'm so American. The ice will float. So this is in contrast to almost every substance on the planet, in the universe. Most, if not all things, the solid is more dense than the liquid. So but water is a really interesting example. And then you notice the gas is about 1,000 times less dense. Okay, and so that's why there's like very few molecules spread out here in this little picture. All right. So moving along. So here are all of the physical processes, changes of state that I want you to know. So if we start at the solid phase, there's several ways we can get it over to these different phases. When we go from solid to liquid, you probably knew that. That's called melting. And we go from liquid to solid, that's called freezing. Okay. So they're opposites of each other. When we go from a liquid to a gas, that's called vaporization. So you might be familiar with like evaporating, or I'm not talking about vaporizing, so put your vaporizer pens away. Do that shit later. All right, we're talking about changing a liquid to a gas, vaporizing, okay? Vaporization. And then if you do the opposite, gas to a liquid, that's condensation, okay? Now, two of the lesser known ones, if you go from a solid all the way directly to a gas, that's called sublimation. Props to one of my favorite bands from the 90s, Sublime. Woo! Love me some Sublime. And then the opposite of that, when something goes from a gas directly to a solid, it's called deposition. In a lot of meteorological processes, you might hear people say wet deposition or dry deposition, and that's the process of things in the atmosphere condensing out all the way to the solid phase. Okay. So know these terms. Understand, melting is solid to liquid. Freezing is liquid to solid. Sublimation is solid to gas. Deposition is gas to solid. Okay, so I want you to know this stuff. Okay, moving along.